Hi, welcome down to the Forest of Arden. My name is Chris Ryan. Today's video, 3 checkpoints that you can work on in your takeaway to ensure you're getting your golf swing off to the best possible start. We appreciate that we do not hit the golf ball with the takeaway, and we can only change the ball flight if we change impact, but many of the faults that we see in the downswing, we class the first point of breakdown in that takeaway. So often what a golfer does in the first 2 or 3 feet can affect the rest of the golf swing, and often it can be a recovery process from there. Now, these 3 things I'm going to go through are not by any means the only things that you need to be looking at, but these are just 3 things that I think are quite common and things that I look for when a golfer moves the club away from the golf ball. So the first thing I would look for is rotation. Now, we would assume that there's going to be rotation in most people's takeaway, but we're looking at what rotates and the rate of rotation. So what I would like to see, and for the purposes of this video, we're talking takeaway from setup until the golf club reaches level with the ground, so until this first position here. Now, what I would like to see would be rotation in the shoulders and rotation in the legs, but I would like to see a little bit more rotation in the shoulders than I would in the legs. So as a guide, and we can't measure this when you're practicing, but 40-20. So I'm looking at about 40 degrees of rotation in the shoulders and about 20 degrees of rotation in the hips. Now, if the hips are going to move, the knees are going to move as well. So I like to see a little bit of changing knee flex. So you'll see here my knees, as I move that club away, begin to change flex a little bit. My left knee increases a little bit, my right leg loses a little bit of flex, and I'm beginning to rotate my pelvis. You'll also notice that my chest has begun to point more back towards the camera. So this is the first thing I want you to check, because a lot of golfers, we're doing maybe incorrectly, we're often not rotating the lower body. If we don't rotate the lower body, I often see the hands and the arms getting overactive and the club going too far in. Or we'll often get the golfer who rotates the body too soon, and then we can get the golf club and the hands moving far too much in or far too deep too quickly. So rotation is key. That is often present in a lot of golf swings, but then more importantly, the rate of which those things rotate and how much they rotate. So about 40 degrees in your shoulders, about 20 odd degrees in your hips. That's a great little guide to work on. I appreciate those numbers are quite difficult to see, but if you're practicing, you can just use that as a guideline. The second thing I would like to see is a little bit of fold in that trail arm. So for me, that's my right arm. And a little bit of fold means that it's going to go from a nearly straight position. And as I move the club away, it's going to start to fold. And that's really going to set the tone as we continue into that golf swing. So take my address position, and as I do my takeaway, that right arm is going to begin to fold. So you can see that it's begun to sort of sit down a little bit. Now, this is really important because as we continue from here, what that arm does in that takeaway is going to really influence how we move the golf club to the top. Again, the 2 things that I would see would be, one, where a golfer maybe keeps that right arm too straight. We can often see that manifest itself in a little bit of that upper body starting to tip towards the target too soon, because the right shoulder is going too much up. And then we get the other golfer who tends to, rather than fold that right arm, they tend to retract the elbow too much behind them. These golfers often struggle with width as they drag that left arm across the chest, and as they get up to the top, they can often get this very, very difficult position where the lead arm breaks down, they don't get much width at the top of their golf swing. So we do not want that trail arm to stay locked, because that's going to often give you a little bit of tip towards the target. But equally, we don't want that elbow to get retracted far too much behind you, because it's going to be very difficult for you to make a good coil to the top with good arm structure. So right arm just beginning to fold as we reach this first parallel position. There's your second checkpoint. The third checkpoint is really just ensuring we're keeping control of the club face. The club face at this point has still got a long way to go before it makes contact with the ball, but we want to make sure it's under control and it's positioned correctly. My preference would be to get the leading edge or the grooves about the same as your upper body angle. So I'm tilted forward by a certain amount. I would like to see the leading edge of the golf club tipped towards the golf ball by about the same amount. It's not an exact science. I'm not going to be concerned with 1 or 2 degrees. What I'm trying to do is avoid anything where it looks too much down towards the ground or too much where the club face looks up towards the sky. Those are the extremes. Those are what we'd like to try and avoid. Of the 2, I would tend to see more golfers with the second one where the club face gets rolled very, very quickly. Club face points up towards the sky. Effectively, in that first 2 or 3 feet, they've opened the club face, and we're straight away bringing in that whole right side of the golf course into play with that open club face. So takeaway, let's ensure we get your golf swing off to the best possible start. 3 things that you can look at or work towards or check in your golf swing. Are your rotations correct? Is the rate of rotation good? What is your trail arm doing? Is it starting to fold correctly? Let's hope so. And are you taking control or keeping control of that club face in the early stages of the golf swing? If we can get those three things working correctly, we should be able to get a first move away from the golf ball which looks pretty normal, pretty neutral, and that's going to set you off on the right tone. We're going to give ourselves the best chance of turning, the best chance of using the arms correctly, and ultimately the best chance of creating a good dowswing position. Right, let me go ahead and hit one. This is the 17th tee. It's a par 5. I've only got a 6 iron, which, as you can imagine, isn't really going to get me particularly far down this hole, but just so we can show you that takeaway, it's going to go 1 rehearsal, my arm folding, body rotating, club face under control. Takeaway. It is important. We don't hit the ball with a takeaway, but it can really set the tone for the rest of your golf swing. Thank you very much for watching. Usual stuff is down below. Like button, comments box, and a link to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, I would urge you to do so. It is absolutely free. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.